or no recommendation at all. And then the second one, after we take care of the rezoning, there'll need to be a motion for the approval of the plat. And I would ask that that motion include something to the effect that the subdivision's approval is conditional on the favorable rezoning on the 24th of March by the commissioners.
But we'll keep her updated if there's questions.
I move to send a favorable recommendations for rezoning of 594,
Including waivers.
including waivers.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to give a favorable recommendation, including waivers, to the Board of Commissioners. Would staff do roll call votes?
Yes. Zoning map amendment certification for Larry D. and William S. Bontrager, rezoning number 594. Location is, that's the wrong address. Sorry. The location is 4147 West, 1100 North, and 10957 North, 400 West in Ligonier. The current zoning district is A1. The proposed will be to RE. Members will offer agree or disagree to a favorable recommendation, including waivers. Number 1, the Noble County Comprehensive Plan. Tom Griffiths,
Favorable.
Glenn Lemon,
Favorable.
Patty Gatman, Mary Weissong, Ann Klein, Dr. Sarah Reagan, Randy Sexton.
Favorable.
Current conditions and the character of the current structures and uses in each district. Glenn Lemon,
Favorable.
Sarah Reagan, Ann Klein, Mary Weissong, Patty Gatman, Tom Griffiths,
Favorable.
Randy Sexton.
Favorable.
The most desirable use for which the land in each district is adapted. Patty Gatman, Mary Weissong, Ann Klein, Sarah Reagan, Tom Griffiths,
Favorable.
Glenn Lemon,
Favorable.
Randy Sexton.
Favorable.
The conservation of property values throughout the jurisdiction. Ann Klein, Tom Griffiths,
Favorable.
Sarah Reagan, Glenn Lemon,
Favorable.
Patty Gatman, Mary Weissong, Randy Sexton.
Favorable.
Responsible development and growth. Patty Gatman, Tom Griffiths,
Favorable.
Ann Klein, Sarah Reagan, Glenn Lemon,
Favorable.
Mary Weissong, Anita Hess is gone, Randy Sexton.
Favorable.
Jeff Cunningham is absent. Based on the findings, the board does now approve a favorable recommendation. You get
Now
that one,
we would be moving on to the approval of the subdivision.
What's the
Give us a quick second, because I had a question for Everett on that. The waiver request from Article,
And what are we waiting?
he wants to waive from having a second meeting in order to do everything on the first meeting,
Okay.
which we've done in the past.
Just what we've done is it what we, is it required by an ordinance or a statute to do that? So I couldn't find one. What I did was, it says the secondary plat has to be approved after the primary plat is approved.
So in theory, we could approve tonight and have a second one.
That's the way it seems to be.
Okay.
There's a time limit from the time the primary one is approved to when the secondary one has to be submitted. At the time, the only thing as far as doing it right now is it's got to be after the primary approval.
So my question to you is does it have to wait the 28 days?
Where is that? That's why I'm saying, what are we waiting?
It's in here. There's a 28-day grace period.
So we'll vote on the secondary and vote on the primary.
I just don't see that.
I was thinking it had to be in 28 days before I could approve it.
Well, yeah, actually, you have to have time enough to review it.
Right.
You've had it for a month.
Yeah, I'm not arguing. I'm just asking
We're
a
just
question.
talking. We're making sure that we're approving this appropriately, and that's all I want to make sure.
Well, here it is.
Yeah, E, formal procedure.
Where you at?
9-41 E.
Okay, we have to do all that first. A formal procedure on 935. There has to be a letter requesting secondary plat approval with all supporting information. Based on the history and complexity of the project, the zoning administrator shall determine if the secondary plat should be presented to the planning commission. So having made that determination, let's say that she's already done that, I don't think you have to, shall assign the secondary plat a case number and place it on the first planning commission agenda that occurs 28 days after the second. So what we're talking about is waiving the procedural requirement that is contained in our ordinance, but is not contained in the statute as far as I can tell. So this is a procedure we established under the county ordinance. The statute provides on, well, everybody I think got a copy of the zoning ordinance, page 102, that the planning commission can waive things pertaining to design standards. And the one on page 147, I think the thing says that you can waive things that pertain to things that were created essentially by the statutes regarding the subdivision. This is not required by either one of them. So the question is can we waive our own requirements for procedures? I believe what you were saying is we've never done this before.
We have
so
done this
we're going to
before.
take time. Okay.
Let's say
We have done it, but I
many times.
I mean,
have
we're
questioned whether or
talking
not we're
about
supposed to be.
Possibility of having new, obviously these are things that need to be addressed.
Right.
That in all the time this has been in effect, this is the first time I think,
Mm-mm.
it's the first time that I've been dealing with it. And, I mean, there might have been people who complained about it, but I mean, as far as it being, so it's not a major issue. But I do think that, if the zoning administrator says, I want to see all that stuff before we submit the secondary plat, and you haven't seen all that stuff, then we shouldn't be waiving it. If on the other hand, we have everything that we need, it's a formality that will not affect the legality of what we do.
Okay. That's what I wanted. So we
Okay.
could essentially waive, in a sense, 917 says nothing will change from the plat that's been submitted today.
Right. Yeah.
So is there any reason not to have a motion for primary and secondary and not do two separate ones?
I don't think, I mean, because, yeah, we just lost.
We've always done it that way. in the
Underneath
past.
these things, there's no public hearing on the second part.
Yeah.
This is the last public hearing. So the question is whose rights are being impinged by going straight to the plat.
Right.
So with that, I would ask that if you are going to, that you include both primary and secondary plat approval contingent on the rezoning on March 24th.
Thank you.
Make the motion to move on to the findings for subdivision 1265, primary and secondary contingent on the rezoning on 3/24/25 in the commissioner's office.
Do I hear a second? Been moved and seconded, this is that.
You ready?
Ready.
Major subdivision findings of fact for Larry D. and William S. Bontrager in care of Hand of the Plow. Subdivision number 1267, physical location is 4147 West 1100 North in Ligonier. Testimony of the Plan Commission having heard the application from the major subdivision described and all testimonies and parties claiming to be adversely affected by the proposed subdivisions now enters the following findings as required by the Unified Development Ordinance and Indiana Code. Disapproval would require a comment. Number one, the subdivision of land is consistent with the Noble County Comprehensive Plan. Patty Gatman. Agree, disagree?
I would agree.
Thank you. Ann Klein?
Agree.
Tom Griffiths?
Agree.
Glenn Lemon?
Agree.
Mary Weissong?
Agree.
Sarah Reagan?
Agree.
Randy Sexton?
Agree.
The subdivision of land satisfies the development requirements of Article 6 with the subdivision types Glenn Lemon?
Agree.
Ann Klein? Tom Griffiths?
Agree.
Sarah Reagan?
Agree.
Mary Weissong?
Agree.
Patty Gatman?
Agree.
Randy Sexton?
Agree.
The subdivision of land satisfies the standards of Article 7. Tom Griffiths?
Agree.
Glenn Lemon?
Agree.
Mary Weissong?
Agree.
Ann Klein?
Agree.
Patty Gatman?
Agree.
Sarah Reagan?
Agree.
Randy Sexton?
Agree.
The subdivision of land satisfies any other applicable provisions of the Unified Development Ordinance. Patty Gatman?
Agree.
Mary Weissong?
Agree.
Ann Klein? Tom Griffiths?
Agree.
Sarah Reagan?
Agree.
Glenn Lemon?
Agree.
Randy Sexton?
Agree.
The subdivision of land satisfies the construction requirements of any applicable Noble County construction standards. Tom Griffiths?
Agree.
Mary Weissong?
Agree.
Glenn Lemon?
Agree.
Ann Klein? Patty Gatman?
Agree.
Sarah Reagan?
Agree.
Randy Sexton?
Agree.
Primary and secondary plat approval, conditional upon a rezoning approval by the county commissioners. The board does approve.
You, it is on 9:30 Monday.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
I have it on here somewhere, Scott. You're making me question myself now. Hold on.
You got it in February.
Wait. Yeah, one of them had, the wrong date. We caught that. Okay,
Cuckoo.
cuckoo.
Okay, moving on to the second item tonight. This would be rezoning 595. I apologize ahead of time if I mispronounce any names. And that's Blerden Anwar Ardeb. In accordance with the Noble County Unified Development Ordinance, Article 9.22, it's requesting a zoning map amendment for the rezoning of 0.351 plus or minus acres from R3 to C2 to allow the permitted uses in a C2 zoning district, being an automobile sales. The real estate is located in section 25 of Swan Township, quadrant 100, parcel 194, common location known as the southeast corner of East State Road 205 and South Tamarack Street in Leato, Indiana. Final considerations will be by the Noble County Board of Commissioners on the 24th of this month at 9:30 in the morning at the opposite end of the hallway. And with that, if the petitioner would come to the table, and I would ask the staff to provide information for this.
If you want to look at your first page of your staff report, you can kind of see between the screen and what we have there with the surrounding land uses, there are quite an array of different land uses in this area. I-1, R3, C2, I-2. There's a mix of businesses in this general area. It is on a state road. This is a proposed site plan. I'll let the petitioner work with you on that. I do believe access is going to come off of Tamarack and not 205. This is just a general area of the original town plat. I thought it merited showing what the original plat looked like. I believe this was part of the railroad depot. Am I right on that, Randy?
Yes, this would be along the, what used to be the Vandalia Railroad, which paralleled 205 all the way through Busco, through Leato, on through. And obviously the land is not there anymore as far as that usage of the land. Obviously the land's there. Further out of town, a lot of those parcels were purchased by the adjoining landowners. And so when they made the plat of Leato, you'll see that open area where the star is, and that was railroad property and the depot area for Leato.
So then as we go, we've got your uses here. We'll go back to those here with the petitioner as they go through that. I wanted to give you a few images of the area. This is the parcel here in front of you. It's vacant. There is a residential home directly behind it. Directly to the east of it, there is a car business there. This is across the street and facing north, I believe. And then you have the Sit-and Bull, and this is a Layauto Electrical, or what is that business there? Sarah knew I didn't. The one,
Is
the one with the white truck.
Landcon.
Landcon. And then we also have fertilizer plant and the arms archery plant, which that went through BZA approval several years ago. Do you remember that one? I know Patty did. I do have a historical question because I did some Googling and I couldn't find the historical marker that's here. I don't know if anybody wants to share that information. I thought it was valid for that location. Randy, I was counting on you. So maybe someone in the audience today will have that. With that, I think it's reasonable development and growth in this area. My main concern is the amount of permitted uses that are allowed in that zoning district, with the intent that the owner is wanting to have a car lot. My question is that I would suggest having some sort of proof that the state's allowing that particular, he has a license for it. He's filed appropriate paperwork with the state. That would be a qualification that I would suggest maybe paying attention to. Obviously, C2 does have a lot of uses. Most of those are applicable along a state road. There may be a few that you find are not, but that would be for you.
Okay, at this time, I would ask the petitioner to state their name and address for the record and provide the board information on the plan for this parcel.
My name is Joshua Lash, Midwest Land Spraying, 124 South Main Street, Ville, Indiana. And because I don't want to butcher your names, I'm going to let him introduce himself as well.
My name is Max Olvin. I represent the Builders Mass. It's 415. Actually, applying to use property for a remodel. I'm not sure, just buying like small business. One is buying with end of 15 prospect sell for months. Looking forward to improving. Right now, my home is very similar. It's to parking lot and home office. Entrance, sidewalk. But next year I'll be building bring better for
So if I may add a few things, the site plan that you see in front of you, it's not a full inclusive site plan. This is just for an idea to give the plan commission tonight an idea of what we were thinking for as far as layout of vehicles, for where the office will be. Everything you see on there fits within that zoning setbacks. Entry and exit from the property would be off Tamarack Street, which I thought would be better, not to have access off a busy State Road 205. And so cars, vehicles be able to pull on and off Tamarack Street with less traffic. This zoning that we asked for this because it was a permitted use, this particular zoning. And people that know the area well, at the intersection there, at the southwest corner, there used to be a car. Used to have car sales there all the time. It's no longer a car lot. We're right adjacent to that property, so I think it's conducive to what's been there in the past, and I think it would be a good fit. Along the south side of that road, those lots along 205 are empty. If I think if the use of the property was conducive to homes along 205, someone would have bought those lots and built a home already. So NAS has the opportunity to purchase the property and develop it, and it sounds like from what he said that in the beginning we're going to have a stone lot, just some parking, one light, small office, and then later on we could possibly hard top it, improve the site even more. But I think the stone knot's pretty frequently used for a car lot this size. Just did one in Wakarusa, same situation. They were on a corner just like the other one, and they used the stone knot. Worked out real well, and he seems to do really well. He's on a busy road, kind of like this one, so I think it'll do real good in Beato. And if there's any questions or that we need to address or concerns that you may have, I think we can answer those to the best of our abilities. If you have any questions about the days being open, hours of operation, things like that, I think Nas can answer that for you guys.
The running 6 days a week. So just fine, it could be just myself and not the other guys.
Josh, Matt, I got a question for you. Would you guys be putting that sidewalk in along the 205 there?
I have not designed,
Okay.
I have not designed a site plan yet, it's just a preliminary.
All right.
It's conceptual. I mean, if they're, I don't know what Beato's intentions are for walkways. I
Right.
don't know if there's a walkway to the east or west, but, usually when homes are built, they put sidewalks in, but, I don't know where we put the walk at.
No, that's fine. It's just a question. And the other one was lighting, signage, lighting.
Yes, we talked about one light pole, I don't know if that's referenced on the site plan or not.
Should, we'll need that.
It would be, we would probably have it pointing down as well, not to show any glare into the road or into any of the residential properties. If there's concerns about, commercial property so close to residential, you could, when the site plan is done, there's certain things we can address as far as buffering and landscaping. We can really make the site really nice.
I was more concerned with just a big sign out there, auto sales.
Right, now, lots of question maybe for Teresa, would we just have to follow a sign ordinance, correct?
Well, in theory, we should have everything on what you submitted.
Okay.
I mean, and that's something that the board's gonna have to decide whether they're willing to allow what was submitted that doesn't have what your intentions are, including the sign. Then we can go from there. We can work with the property owner on the sign if the board moves forward. We do have sign standards that they'll have to meet.
Well, we can add anything to that site plan. If you guys want. Like I said, in my opinion, Randy may have some issues that he wants addressed as well as the county survey for drainage. I mean, this is just simply a 2D plan view conceptual drawing.
The concerns that I have, that I believe need to be addressed are, the current plan does not provide any information concerning, applicability with the Noble County Storm Drain and Erosion Control Ordinance. There'll need to be detention on site for that. Concerned with the entrance as far as working with the letter from the highway department with the entrance being that close to the state road.
I actually have a comment from NDOT on that.
Okay, as long as we have somebody on that. Lighting would need to be, so that it does not go beyond the property lines and adversely affect the highway and also the adjoining landowners. And I think that would take care of the majority of it.
If you're okay with that, I'll do the tech review comments
Yes,
that
please.
came back. GIS didn't find any issues with the legal description. Jason Hanaway from NDOT, he said, through Tamarack is a local road. We suggest moving the access further south to maximize the distance from the intersection of 205. And then the highway department had no comment. and the rest outside of Bria. Bria did make a comment that the names were fine on the plat, but this is not going to go to her. So, the others did not make a comment. Including Glenn.
My apologies for not having this stuff on the site plan. I thought this was completely conceptual, because I hate to do a full-blown site plan and I hate to rezone. So I apologize for that.
And like I said, I mean, if the board wants to move forward with that tonight, we'll make sure that before anything that comes in meets county surveyors standards, it has to anyway for a building permit. And that the light pole, buffer, landscaping, and lighting, we could probably also address in a motion.
Do you have any comment cards?
Not that I do. If not deliverable to Heininger, not deliverable to Troyer. Leato Community Association also not deliverable. We received return cards from Rondell Lee Perez or Lear, Weir. RGK's Incorporated. I'm against the rezoning, number 595 in Leato. There are homes nearby, and the car lot will want lights all night long. I'm sorry. We received one from the property owner, no comment. Donna Griffiths and Dawn Yanni. No, I believe the lot is too small for a car lot, and so does my daughter. Sarah Hoffman, not a positive attribute for the community, will not fit into setback requirements. Patricia Leiter, Ray is deceased, she's noted, that's all. Robert Rittmeyer, no comments. Is it Lentz or Hintz? Larry? Lentz or Hintz, no comment. And then Louise Kroc and Christine Kroc. I don't feel that we need that parcel. Should be rezoned. We already have a car lot next to it. Swanson Stone, no comment. Greg Haney and Joyce Haney, no comment. And Abigail Stanley, no comment.
Okay, thank you. And I believe, Patty, you did the site visit.
I did not know whether I did property images.
I can go through the images while you do that, if that helps you.
No. I think she's on the same page as you.
No, I'm just saying I can flip through images while she's talking.
Yeah, no, I'm very familiar, I've been in quite a few of those businesses that are down through there. It's not a bad area, a lot of it is already commercialized. There's a lot of businesses there already, there are a few homes, but the majority is commercial.
It is one block off of a four-way stop as well. I don't know if that's a factor for members to consider. And that's the car lot that's right next door. Those are the cars that are sitting behind. They need a buffer.
That was on the east side of 205 where LaneCon is.
It is across the street, but the backyard fence butts up to this property. So automotive repair, where that fence is,
Yes.
on the
over
other
there,
side of it
always.
is the property and that we're working on.
Okay, thank you. At this time, you will ask for any interested parties, one at a time, for a collection of 20 minutes for everybody. So if there's more than one, I would ask that you be considerate to others that want to speak opposing this petition. Come forward at this time. State your name and address for the record.
Ronald Lear, RGK's Incorporated. Business address is 6850 East Lisbon Road. We own the property at the post office at 210 and 212 South Main Street. and I've had property there for about 40 years. I don't believe the lot is large enough. He didn't say anything about where he was going to detail or keep the cars cleaned out and stuff like that. If he brings the cars to the south edge of the property, he's going to be right at the property line of the residential house trailer next door. And with the lighting and stuff, I see no way that he can keep the lighting just on that small lot. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Having seen none, if the petitioner would come forward, you have 5 minutes to address any concerns or further comments that you have before we close the public hearing.
So just to address a few items, the site plan that was given to you, Sarah Hoffman, said something about not meeting setbacks, and the setbacks are shown on the site plan. And we meet those, the garage, the office space meets those setbacks. So, I mean, that's just not true. Hopefully Sarah had a copy of the plot plan, but maybe she didn't, so she didn't know. As far as, I think before, I thought screening would have been an issue with landscaping, with butting up against residential property to the south. Sounds like lighting's gonna be an issue as well, and I think we can address those issues through directional lighting, and maybe also time frame, like a photo light, so, or a timer that can go off at a certain time. There will be probably a security light up there at all time, like there is anywhere else throughout the night, but I think we can address lighting issues, that concerns through any type of commercial light that would just directionally shoot that light in a certain area and not overcast it. So that's pretty common. We see it a lot. So I feel like it could be addressed. But you know, for me, the property to the south is residential. Yes, I understand that. But just to the east is the same property, same use, and we're just to the north now. And I understand it's a small town, undeveloped. Someone comes in, buys a piece of property, wants to develop it. People get used to seeing things empty, and I understand that. And you know, but this is a perfect location. It's a well-traveled road, well visible. It is a small lot. It is, but it's also a small dealership. It's just a very. That's the good thing. It'll never grow. It'll never be a Kelly Chevrolet. You know, at this location, it's going to be a small dealership. And if he does well and he grows, you know, I'm sure he'll find another site as soon as he needs. But this is just a way for Nas to get start a business and try to make a go at it. So.
What about the detail? He brought up a point about detail.
Sure, I'll let Nas address that.
Actually, when I bought the property, it was like, it was a miss. I just thought cleaning it out last week.
Vehicle detailing.
So when they say
Vehicle.
detailing, cleaning cars.
Detailing. We were not doing detail on that property. So
It all be done off-site.
it'll be done outside, offering finish it cars. So I would not even do any kind of repair in that lot. It's gonna be car ready to sell. So we will not do any other service.
Are they used cars?
Yeah.
Used cars?
Used cars.
Now, how are they gonna be shipped in? How are you gonna unload those vehicles?
The unloading, so normally the car that I've been doing, I've been working on the car dealership for like over 5 years. First of all, I have another lot in Fort Wayne, so I'm gonna be using that lot for repair. So I'm gonna be bringing the finishing ready car to sell. So they're gonna be finishing work. So they be drivable, nothing like.
You'll just drive them to your
I
lot.
can drive it, yes.
You don't have a truck showing up with 3 or 5 vehicles on there that have to be unloaded on the street.
I like the one on State Road 8 on the way to Auburn when they parked that semi.
You can't
right in the
see.
middle of the road. Yeah.
So you won't do that.
No, we're not.
Okay.
I have a question. What type of licensure or certification do you need to be able to have a car sales lot?
Dealership license, this is not for me to do that, I need, add an address. So, we're working on this lot, and we can set up, I'll be applying for the, dealership license.
So do you have to get a different license? I'm assuming you have one for location in Fort Wayne.
The location I have is just for, I also do like rental, I have a couple of rental cars, that is just, it's not like, it's a small lot, it's not a dealership license. This is gonna be, I'm gonna do my dealership license on the new location.
Can I ask or
Well-
offer an opinion on that though? If he needs an address for that, could the board maybe table this? Offer him a 911 address next month? Offer him time to get what he needs for the state? And then come back?
What does he need from the state?
You can't get it from the state until it gets an address.
You mentioned that in some of your comments.
So in order to have
A license isn't really our problem. He can't sell cars unless he has a license.
understand that, but then if he doesn't get a license, every one of those permitted uses are now allowed on that lot, which aren't going to be that way anyway, but at least we know as a board, the intentional use will happen with him having a license. We have less chance of something else going in there.
Well, if he was gonna lie to us, he'd just get the license and put something else in anyway.
I'm not saying he's lying, I'm saying,
You can solve that by making particular uses part of a, commitment or covenant.
And I didn't know we could do that until you told us the last time.
I mean,
Those
I
have to
believe
be
they
written.
changed the law on that a while back.
yes,
didn't they?
and yes, it wasn't that way 20 years ago when we were doing this. We had a lot of boards did that, but there was no legal foundation for it. But now there is.
Yes.
would it have to be a recorded document against the deed?
The best, you don't have to, but the best procedure is to have the commitment recorded so that somebody else, first of all, neighbors can look it up, and secondly, if it's sold, the person buying the property knows that it's limiting its use. And if they decide they need to use a different use, then they have to get the commitment modified, which means neighbors have to be notified.
And we have to monitor it.
Monitor what?
Well, if it's known to the public that there's a limitation on it, it'd be you and the neighbors who would be monitoring it. But that's true, we can't monitor 40,000 properties.
Right.
So that's a problem we have with every zone. But I always say the same thing. If you were relying on a particular promise being made, then you should make a commitment on that promise, because things happen, he could pass away, whoever inherits his property has different plans. And so that's not saying he didn't intend to do what he said, but somebody else has now stepped in his shoes. It's a good idea to have that. If it doesn't matter to you, if you say, well, it goes out of business and we have all these other uses listed, but we don't care, they're all good commercial uses, then we don't need to put a commitment that limits it.
Why don't, we don't,
I mean, I kind of feel sympathy for the presenter because I've done it. And if you make the project too specific and then every little detail gets picked apart, when all we're talking about here is general use. Is this a suitable piece of property for car sales?
we can't say,
If you don't want something on the site, let's fix the UDO and take it out, so we're not allowed to have that in that particular zoning. I mean, we're just here to.
Right, but you can condition
Right.
a motion if they desire to be explicit to the use of this site.
Yeah, and you can do other conditions. There are lighting standards in your zoning ordinance in two places, so it's possible that the lighting standards that already exist may take care of the problem. If there's something peculiar to the site that makes lighting particularly offensive for this type of zoning, having a requirement as what the lighting condition should be is sensible. There's been very little evidence presented about lighting, except to say that it could be excessive.
we aren't, it's not our job to police whether they get the right licenses or anything else, right? I mean, we are rezoning the property.
Yeah.
End of
But we've
story.
legally petitioned that the intention is a car lot, so
But that wasn't
Does that-
petitioning him to have come in here with a license. I just think, I'm with Mary on this, it's wrong to ask him to get a license to
Okay.
get a piece
Yeah,
of property
that's-
wrote
that- But I agree with you and Mary. However, you as a board will need to determine
Right.
what limits would be acceptable on the permitted uses
Right.
in that area, and that's something you need to look at.
If we don't like all of that list, then we need to narrow it down to what we want it to say can be used on that property.
Correct.
Yeah, based on the principles that you vote on. In other words, you may, well, let's say the residential property, being that close, the quasi-commercial stuff that's going on next to it may have more of an impact than it would normally would that kind of situation. Because one of the things to take into account is the effect on neighboring property. And you say, well, but other than that, it's a good project. Well, then, if there's something that mitigates that, you know, it's sensible to make that. One of the things I always suggest is that if you want to have a commitment, you ought to be able to point to those factors that you're voting on and say, I would pass this if that commitment was there, because it takes care of the problem, where otherwise they wouldn't be able to meet it. And rezoning is a lot more flexible, because all those conditions that are listed there, you're to pay due regard to those factors, which means, let's say you don't meet one of the criteria, it's not like a variance. It doesn't, you know, if the other criteria are sufficient, you don't need to turn something down. Due regard means just that. You got to show on the record that you thought about those things and that you looked at each one of those before you made a decision.
So while you're looking at those, you also need to look at page 11-32 for the type 1, 2, 3, and 4 retail, because those also specifically call out uses.
If I may interrupt, the other businesses that are zoned C2 have no restrictions on them. So if your intent is to stop something from happening, it's kind of ill. We'll do whatever we have to do to get the rezoning, okay? But you're not gonna stop anything, because all the other C2 districts can do it. You know, if the root of the problem is, if there's certain things you don't want in that district, take them out of that list.
But I think part of the root of the problem in this situation is you have a lot of residential in commercial area as well.
Well, we
So I
have
think in
one
that
house
sense,
to
they're
the
trying to
south of
protect
us.
some of the neighborhood.
On the other hand, as a member of the BZA, and Patty can attest to this, every month we have a small business getting located somewhere where we don't want it.
This is
I look, is our next thing's the comprehensive plan. I ain't even looking at the comprehensive plan, insist that we keep small businesses near municipalities. Exactly what this one is.
Mhm.
And as far as the lighting, I don't even want to mention his name, but you might have to redo the whole UDO if you can't address the lighting within the lighting structure. Maybe that's an issue as well. So if he wants to do this, he is locating in a municipality. Yes, the area might be small, but the lighting should be addressed. And Josh, and I don't blame Josh for having just a two-dimensional drawing, because he doesn't know if he's gonna get the rezoning. According to our comprehensive plan, we will be really extremely hard on this guy.
The rezoning, there are requirements for the rezoning submission. Current proposed locations of structures. I was only addressing your ordinance.
Right.
So I do think that, and I thought all along, and I've told him this, I told Ness this, I think this is a great location. There's a lot of commercial going on in that area. You're on a state road. This is what will happen in Leato, whether it's today or in a while. This area is starting to grow. There are residential homes in that area. So I do think that's part of where I was coming with Josh. Across the street, there's 2 residential homes, and directly behind them. Is that the intention maybe from Mary, thinking, is there something here that we think is not applicable to be by a residential home? An ice cream shop, probably not a big deal. But, you know, do you want,
Sexually oriented business?
right,
Is that an
Probably
epidemic
not.
in our county? I hope not.
Well, we have to, by law, we have to have it somewhere.
Well, one that would probably be closer than getting to an extreme would be, when you're talking about automotive, if this car lot would not happen, what if the owner now or in the future were to put up a building and start auto repairs and have autos sitting there in a various states of repair and things of that sort, and also the noise factor and things of that. Not
Well,
opposed to it, I think it's a good idea.
there's your
I just think that
definition.
you need to be contemplating, buffering other properties, making sure your lighting is at this property only. Definitely storm drainage needs to be resolved. And, for NDOT's question and mine, the entrance has to be moved. And so, that's something that probably can all be addressed in a site plan.
Mhm.
It'll be up to, and I was gonna wait to bring this up in a minute, but the board's gonna have to decide tonight whether or not they feel comfortable with, whatever limits the board decides that they wanna put on it, and also whether the site plan is adequate enough to provide a favorable, unfavorable, or no recommendation to the Board of Commissioners. And, things can be resolved at a later date if the board doesn't feel that comfortable and has requests that they want of the petitioner, then I think it would, and I'll address this to legal counsel, but I would think that it would need to be tabled for a month until those issues could be brought to us.
I have a comment.
Mary?
Okay, my husband had a GM dealership in the small town of Cromwell for 40 years. We had houses all around us. We were on State Road 5. We had lights all over the place. I mean, we didn't have, any.
It's often a deterrent. I mean,
Yeah, he's gonna have to have lighting.
Yeah, I mean, and we didn't have people, our neighbors didn't complain about, oh, the light's too bright or whatever, so I don't know, just my comment.
So, kind of going back with a little bit what you said, if the board wants to move forward, could you add those conditions on the rezoning, that the driveway be moved farther off of 205? There'd be appropriate lighting and an appropriate sign.
Do we have to, the driveway, will NDOT take care of that, or do
No,
we?
that's county,
That's
because
it's
taken off county road. So that, I'm just saying it in reference to the submitted drawing, that you're approving basically the hypothetical that was done, but you would like to see the driveway come farther off a 205. I mean, anything like that you think might be something that will help the commissioners understand where you're coming from, I don't think is a bad
that
idea.
shouldn't stop a commissioner from making his decision. That plan will go through your guys' departments at the county. The highway, Randy, your office, the building department. I mean, we're here for a reason. I mean, if you guys don't have to approve a site plan, we're not approving the site plan, we're approving a reason. This site plan was just a conceptual.
It is it is a requirement.
And I met the requirements, and when I turned it in, you gave me a list, I met it, but this is not a full-blown site plan. This is not a I'm telling you right now, this will never pass the full-blown site plan. And you can't spend the money and time into a full-blown site plan until you have a reason.
Josh is right, when we rezoned over there by,
In Cromwell,
those little things that pop up everywhere, come on.
DG,
What?
Dollar General?
Dollar General.
they had a huge site plan. It took us 3 meetings to get through that.
Not originally.
Yes, they did. They had a development plan that went through that, and we went through 3 plan commission meetings to get that thing done because they wouldn't move that dumpster. It was
But they would never tell us what it was, because I asked if it was.
right.
gonna be
They
Dollar
gave us
General, and Everett told me I wasn't allowed to ask that
Right.
question.
and they just gave us a general idea of what type of retail was going in, but they had a full blown site plan.
Okay, so he could have a full-blown site plan and.
Aqua
we-
Holdings full blown site plan. If we have a
Well,
commercial
stop, I'll
solar
waste my time, but
overlay, that's gonna have a full-blown site plan. In general, when we are seeing some of these bigger developments, and granted, I get it, this is a smaller development, But we're seeing these bigger developments, we're having them show us what that overall picture is going to be, and that's what our ordinance requires.
So you're telling me he could have came in here with a full-blown site plan and had a building on it, and we couldn't have asked him if it was gonna be an automotive mechanic shop or a car dealership?
In general, we do ask what the idea for what zoning district he's wanting, and if it meets, because we have to know if he's
But
going
you
to
wouldn't have
meet.
to tell us.
Just so you know, I met the list.
He does
checklist
have to
for
list.
site plan. that is, like, there's several things that are beyond this. And Randy knows.
I think you basically have to look at tonight, if you want to make any recommendations for conditions for the commissioners to look at, such
Right.
as lighting, storm drainage, entrance, things of that sort. And then the other thing that you need to be comfortable with, and maybe you're totally comfortable with, is the permitted uses. If you want to make a recommendation on excluding anything or making it specific as to what conditions this site will have. Beyond that, then I think it's up to the commissioners to make their final decision.
Well, I think we can take right off the top, the adult oriented business, that's one. Any others?
I can't see him.
You have your book,
There's a bar.
2-32.
Daycare, delicatessen, fitness center, funeral home. I feel like the size of the site is gonna limit what.
It is.
Like, you're not gonna get a dance
He's
floor.
not putting an ice skating rink in there. A small restaurant, maybe, a small drive-through, maybe, like a little coffee shop
It
drive-through.
could be like a big B, I guess. You could have-
Yeah, a little Big B's kind of thing, which would be nice in that area. I think they'd appreciate it.
I don't.
To be honest with you, the one that was mentioned was my main concern, because it's in a residential / business area. That was my biggest concern.
Is there,
And I told the property owner
yeah,
that.
is there any adult oriented business in Noble County? I'm not aware of.
I don't know why it's a big, I don't know why we're arguing.
Our little towns, they won't put up with that.
Well,
They won't have a
to.
choice. Yeah.
The First Amendment says that they have to have some place in the county where they can be located.
Right.
Well, we'll volunteer that. if that is-
I'm not sure why it's so difficult. We have sign standards, we have lighting standards, all we're doing is a rezone.
Right.
And what he wants to rezone is on the list,
Hmm.
and he's following everything that he said.
I'm not saying you have to, I'm just saying if you want to.
Right.
Sure.
Right, we've
That's
got a
what you
number of
have to do.
rezonings going through where people have made specific promises, and nobody's made a commitment as what they're gonna do.
That's
We just need to be aware
2-32.
that unless they just flat out commit fraud, they're not bound by those promises. You know, I've seen people go ahead and approve something saying that'd be a great thing for the town, and then that's not what happens. And all they care about is, well, does it fit the zoning requirement if you didn't have any limitations on it?
I mean, we could theoretically rezone it for commercial, he could walk out of here and sell it, and then we'd be, and somebody else could do something.
Do
Any
whatever
one
they
of
want.
Any of those.
Any one of the things on that list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It depends on, you look at it in terms of this current location, is it a bad thing
For that location.
for that location? Well, I personally, and this has got nothing to do with what the law says, if somebody comes in with a very specific site plan and says, I want to rezone it for this, and this is what we're going to do, and I say, okay, this is what you're going to do. And the written commitment is that you're going to do that. It's not a smart thing for them to do, because whenever you develop particularly a larger project, something always changes. The site isn't what you thought it was going to be, and you have to make adjustments. A Dollar General store may even have to do that, even though they have kind of standardized boxes
Right.
that they use. One of the interesting things about zoning is it's a very fluid area. So you try to, I use these regulations as anchors for making decisions. You've got the 5 factors you need to consider. If you're going to vote on those factors and you're depending on what they say, you're absolutely depending, not just, not in a general way, then you ought to come, that ought to be a commitment. If on the other hand, you're perfectly happy with something more general, or you have certain areas you just want to be prohibited, although I'll mention, it's better off to have these sexually oriented businesses listed as a general possibility than to start singling them out for exclusion, because then you are going to see somebody like the ACLU asking you, why are you doing that? And it's better to take those. If you're going to exclude one of those, you ought to exclude more than just one. Simply because of singling out a protected activity is going to be a problem.
I think one thing to keep in mind of this is the limitations that are gonna happen anyway, just
That's the
strictly
size.
to the size of the property.
Yeah.
There's a fair amount of that list that size of property is gonna eliminate them anyway, so. At this point in time, so I make sure that I do it, is there any other comments from the petitioners? Then I'm going to close the public hearing. If we can have any further discussion between the board members, and at some point when the a member of the board is comfortable, I would like to ask for a motion with any conditions for this to go to the commissioners. It would be either favorable, unfavorable, or no recommendation. Include any conditions that you want to see, and then we would move forward with the voting at that time.
And I'll just reinforce, because we have some new members, this is a recommendation. It's the county commissioners who ultimately decide. Now, if they play around with what we recommend, depending on whether it's favorable or unfavorable, or no recommendation, they have different options as to what they can do regarding rejecting or accepting those commitments. But it is ultimately their decision.
I move to send a favorable recommendation to the commissioners for rezoning. Can't find the number.
595.
595.
Any conditions?
No, no conditions.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded. I would ask for the roll call.
Patty Gatman. Tom Griffiths.
Isn't it favorable?
You already made a favorable recommendation.
Either agree.
All right, I agree.
You're agreeing to a favorable recommendation. Okay. Sarah Reagan,
Agree.
Patty Gatman. I did that. Glenn Lemon,
Agreed.
Mary Weissong,
Agree.
Ann Klein,
Agree.
and Randy Sexton.
Agree.
The current conditions and the character of the current structures and uses in each district. Ann Klein,
Agree.
Sarah Reagan,
Agree.
Tom Griffiths,
Agree.
Glenn Lemon,
Agreed.
Patty Gatman,
Agree.
Mary Weissong,
Agree.
Randy Sexton.
Agree.
The most desirable use for which the land in each district is adapted. Mary Weissong,
Agree.
Ann Klein, Tom Griffiths,
Agree.
Glenn Lemon,
Agreed.
Patty Gatman,
Agree.
Sarah Reagan,
Agree.
Randy Sexton.
Agree.
The conservation of property values throughout the jurisdiction. Sarah Reagan,
Agree.
Ann Klein,
Agree.
Tom Griffiths,
Agree.
Mary Weissong,
Agree.
Glenn Lemon,
Agreed.
Patty Gatman,
Agree.
Randy Sexton.
Agree.
Responsible development and growth. Glenn Lemon,
Agreed.
Ann Klein,
Agree.
Dr. Sarah Reagan,
Agree.
Tom Griffiths,
Agree.
Patty Gatman,
Agree.
Mary Weissong,
Agree.
Randy Sexton.
Agree.
Based on the board, the board does offer unanimous a favorable recommendation to the county commissioners.
That will be heard by the commissioners on March 24th at 9:30 in the commissioners' room. Thank you for coming. Moving on to the next item, plat committee meeting time, moving it to
We've-
8:30.
Had a request to move that meeting time to 8:30. We start at 8:10.
I greatly applaud that idea. I wasn't the one that requested it, but I'll add my comment to that. Other counties are at 8:30. It gives those that are on the plat committee, that have offices time to take care of things and get to. the
If we have an
meeting at
issue
8:30.
too, getting things set up, that gives us time to make sure audio's working properly, stuff like that. So that does help us as well.
Do we need a motion for that?
I would do it.
I would ask for a motion and a second to move the plat committee meeting, which is on the second
Does that
and
mess you up
fourth
for work?
Wednesdays.
It worked out.
So moved. I'll second.
It's It's been moved and seconded, move the plat committee to 8:30 in the morning on the second and fourth Wednesdays. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the same. Motion carries. Moving on to member, staff, officer, and committee reports.
See, girls started telling me they were busy while I was gone, but there's not anything on the board.
That does not reflect the phone calls.
I'm giving them a hard time. 2 minor subs, 2 are pending, and we had 2 administrative subs. Both are out of the office. So we've got 1 sitting in waiting to be picked up, but they're done. Your address report, you have 3 no change because there was a remove and replace of homes. And 1 was a 911 address being requested to move to a single family dwelling.
No motion on that.
Yes, please.
Also, do I have a motion to accept the address report?
Motion to accept the address report.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to accept the report provided. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries.
On to our comprehensive plan. So I'm going to throw some things out there to you. You've received this information. I have some things on the PowerPoint specifically because some of the PowerPoint, well, it's live. Anybody can come back and look at it. We were contacted by one of the groups that you have in your packet, I cannot say the name for this. Abermarsh, thank you. They've been good communication with this one. They suggested taking our comprehensive plan and asking all of you board members, which we threw this out to the BZA, which we have a BZA member that probably should come to the table in this particular conversation if the board is comfortable with that. Randy, is that
Yes,
good?
Yes.
I think this reflects her very much being a BZA member. We see specifically in the BZA how the comprehensive plan is working against us. So having this conceptual idea of doing this online survey for a plan commission, I think I even sent it to the commissioners. I don't know who submitted the comments below, but when you see these 1 through 5s, these are comments that came in from an individual that took the test or took the review. So these are the things that we are looking at, showing that our comprehensive plan is weak in some areas. I'm not going to go through all of these. I'm going to flip through the slides so you can see just quickly some of the questions at the top. And then even just by looking at the graph and noticing the comments down below, someone, and I don't want to know who, but I love the comment on the right side of the screen. We will realize our vision for Noble County by aligning community vision that support one another. The last question, what does that mean? I think that's been an ongoing feeling with some of the stuff that's coming through on our comprehensive plan. We really don't know what it means. It was a beautiful comment, by the way, whoever made it. Hit yourself on the back. Growth management policies. These are just some of the data that was collected from a survey that took maybe, 10 minutes, Sarah, at most. This is only part of it. I did not put all of the 62 pages. I put a fair amount of it on here. So with that, I went ahead. There are some areas that I just pulled comments out from below. Are there other policies that are not listed that should be added? Again, we received comments. Are there policies that are not listed that should be added to the comprehensive plan update? These are in specific categories, and I probably should have specified which category they came out of. I think one of them was parks, one of them was government. So there you go. So with that, this is just a couple pages of their proposal. She is actually listening online. If you have any questions or comments, she's available. I can text her a message. I've been working with Crystal Welsh. We've had really good communication. She comes from a planning background. We could speak a lot of the same language. Their proposal here on the right, I think this will come in stages. So maybe if we come to council for money, we can come in stages, which I think is going to happen throughout the other proposals.
I think we only got, at least in mine, I only got every other.
Yeah, page 6 I noticed is in the formal one that I received.
Page 14, it's all of our even pages.
Okay, so it was a front to back copy, so however it was copied for you guys, it wasn't copied front
Just
to
so you
back.
know, we're only seeing half of it.
That was a misprint. I do have an original here if anybody wants to flip through it. We have two. We can have one for each table. You want to toss that across?
Could you, I didn't even see it tonight, but could you get it to the phone?
We can definitely get those scanned and emailed tonight.
You should have had it emailed.
Yeah, because I was looking for the comment.
Sarah, it was scanned front, not front to back. Yeah. So every other page is missing.
Because I was looking for the comment that you liked and I couldn't find it.
Which one?
The one that you read.
Oh, that is on
It's on the question.
that is on the questionnaire.
And then the other question I had is the question about worrying about the downtowns.
And that's valid. We don't regulate any of the downtowns, and why is that on our comprehensive plan? Now, here's the thing. If we do a community comprehensive plan, which is a possibility, we have other towns that are interested in joining in this. They'll put in their financial pocket. But in that case, that moves over to their comprehensive plan. Yeah. Which would be nice if we could get an overall county comprehensive wide plan. I know that there's some interest in Rome City joining. I believe Cromwell is interested in joining. Avila has sparked a little bit of interest. I've talked to Kendallville. I'll tell you what they're doing here in a minute. And I have not talked to Ligonier or Albion just yet. I wanted to see what we had going on here.
Ligonier is
Oh,
trying
you
to
can
write
answer.
an ordinance. Yes, I can tell you, because I'm their attorney. They're still trying to write an ordinance for the comprehensive plan that Kenneth Hughes did 5-6 years ago. So,
Sounds like they need help.
they need to get their ordinance written before they get to the new comprehensive plan. But the concept probably wouldn't bother him, because Kenneth did the last comprehensive plan. And obviously Kenneth had many of the same ideas about county development that was included in the Ligonier plan.
Some of the conversation that I've had with Crystal is she's brought up a couple areas that seem to be lacking in our ordinance is, we don't have, maybe we need to have a Spanish version of our ordinance out, or at least have some language that directs there. And also the Amish group, we also talked about ADA compliance. Do we need to add some language to that into this comprehensive plan? Those are some things that she's brought to my attention. And obviously, I think a lot of you know, I think we need to add food in general under our comprehensive plan. We're an ag community and we don't talk about food in our comprehensive plan. Hobby farming is big. If we can help encourage hobby farming, Mary's on my page here. You want to take it over?
No, I'll let you go.
If we want to encourage hobby farming, the opportunity to have these young families that are buying these small parcels that can be able to sustain themselves on their own property keeps them in our community. It's another layer that we can work on keeping that younger generation home.
But then you're asking for a home-based business, and Tom wants to move into.
Hobby farming is not a home-based business.
Yes, not.
Well, if they would decide
And
they-
agricultural
if they decide they
tourism.
want to open a stand or a business.
Agricultural
of that.
tourism is somewhat acceptable, so there's a fine line on finding on what it is, so we can,
Roadside stands are okay.
yeah,
Well, yeah, but-
Roadside stands are allowed in.
to
But if you
permit
go with
use.
the Amish, a bunch of these are opening their own business where they handle the produce plus horse items plus feed
That's
whatever.
That's a
else.
business.
That's where this is going, back to,
As long as they're doing it just for themselves, it's fine. As soon as they start to sell that, then we're talking.
If we're selling it, then we talk like farmer market type stuff.
Right, they're hauling it off. They're taking it to a farmer's market. If they have a small farm stand, that's one thing, but if they have a year-round storefront, now we've got a bigger business. Yeah. So we've had good communication. Do you have any questions for them? I'm gonna move on if you don't.
I will make a comment, not trying to put a plug either way, but I have worked a fair amount with Chris Kowalski. Last I knew, and I don't know now, but he lived in LaGrange County. He was both at one time LaGrange County and then spent more time as the Elkhart County head of planning in a sizable department. He has a very in-depth degree in planning. Very good guy to work with. I did not realize until he got this that Chris wasn't at Elkhart, that he had moved on and was in private practice. I also know Tim Ellerby. who is more of a civil engineer type and that type of thing. So two of those people down there, along with Jeff Weaver, I know Jeff can give, I would give good recommendations, especially Chris.
I want to reiterate what Teresa said too. I was very impressed when they suggested Spanish language materials because the Hispanic population is a part of this county and we need to be reaching out. And in Ligonier, I mean, businesses, like, we need to include them in the conversation, and if we can't talk to them on the same level, then we're missing out on all that input. And same thing with the Amish community. I mean, I appreciated that they had done a report on non-motorized transportation. I thought, well, that means that they might know how to approach the community. So I was impressed with this particular proposal the most.
Okay.
Okay, my first
Sorry.
disagreement with the doctor.
It's allowed. This is why we put you in the corner, Tom.
I disagree wholeheartedly with the Spanish version. There's a lot of people in Noble County that don't want their tax money going into a Spanish version, especially when Trump has just said English is what we're doing.
What did he say? Yeah, I'd agree with you. If you're gonna live here, you just think it. If he was over there, we wouldn't.
I have no animosity or prejudice
I don't
against the
either.
Spanish. It's just, you want to live in America, you need to speak English at some point.
I get Ligoniers like majority is Spanish, but the majority of our county is not Spanish speaking people.
Can
So
I-
are we talking a
I'll agree with
Spanish
Howard.
written version?
I
Or
think
what?
I think we attack that once we go through the proposal. I think it's an option that she brought up. I thought it was valid to mention it tonight. And again, the studies that they're going to do are going to tell us what we need. They're going to tell us if we need other languages or, you know, how we're going to help the Amish community in a different way, or, you know, maybe the Hispanic group. But we'll recognize the different communities that we live with by doing a comprehensive plan overview.
And the Amish understand our laws better than most of the English in Noble County. Trust me.
Okay, well, thank you. I appreciated that. I to be honest with you, I thought it was very creative giving us a pre-homework to come to this point. So I was tickled with that one. Our other proposals come from Hometown. We worked with Hometown to work on our UDO here in the last couple years. As you can see, she's noted here on the first 3 or 4, well, almost most of it, she's acknowledging what she's finding as issues within our comprehensive plan currently. I was really looking at number 2 here earlier this afternoon, where she was addressing the land use map, that we don't have a thoroughfare plan in there. Excuse me. It's, and I think all of us have seen certain language in the UDO or the comprehensive plan, excuse me, has been used to completely turn a conversation around. So they're in a ballpark of 150 to 200,000, an 18-month time frame. Granted, when she submitted this was, I think, by December. I thought we would be a little farther ahead at that time. So I would think they wouldn't start in September, which I think she has as a big, or July, June or July of this year, which I think we're now going to probably move this farther out if we move with them. Any questions on Hometown? Structure Point, they have worked with Noble County here for some of the building that have come up. They've also done a fairly extensive plan. They do have something in here that Sarah and I are questioning if maybe someone in this office know if there is a Noble County restored round barn museum, because I think that might be a typo. Is there a round barn museum? I have a feeling that's a typo.
There's a round
There's
barn.
round barn.
I think it's just a typo, but that I was on the plane and I was like, wait a minute, I don't think we have that. And Sarah, when I got back, she said the same thing. So
Do we got more than one?
that's,
However, I will put a plug in for the Indiana Barn Foundation, of which I am a board, on the board of directors, for preserving older pin frame barns and that type of thing. So
nice.
I think we need to bring that into
The comprehensive
this,
plan.
discussion of the comprehensive plan as
Historic.
the organization, which is now over 10 years old, is working hard to preserve some of our historic agriculture for future generations to know as we're losing some of those buildings. So I would encourage that to be a part
I
of it.
actually appreciated that they brought some of the history into their report. And they had a very intensive report. They went through some of their action plans and how they're intending to get community engagement. I believe Structure Point and Abermarsh are intending to hit the community when there's events, rather than us staging an event and hoping someone shows up. I think they're intending to be where there's going to be community events. Saves everybody. There's going to be people already there, and they'll pull people in. Abermarch talked about getting surveys through the school systems into the Amish community. We've got some connections now that we're working with the Amish community. We can get some things in their hands. So, but this is their proposal here. And again, this is going to come in 3 phases. I think this one was finishing in 27. Abermarsh, I will go back to them. One of the other things that she suggested is potentially as we're wrapping up the comprehensive plan with them, and maybe any other company could do that as well, we start working on the UDO. So before and during the time frame of us knowing that the comprehensive plan is going to be adopted, we now start noticing what areas of the UDO need to be amended. And we try to in a short period of time, not wait 3 to 5 years because we're all drained. To just drag it out and get it done, right? And
Did you
then,
mention that someone suggested doing them concurrently?
no, it was
It
do the
was
comprehensive
only
plan, and as we're
following that.
finishing that up, because now we've got all the data, we know where numbers are going, we'll have that stats. Abermarsh was the one that suggested immediately, as it's wrapping up, to start working on the UDO. Not that any one of the other ones can't do the same thing, but they verbally brought that to my attention. HWC is the last one, and they were by far the less expensive. They offered a little bit of an a la carte type situation, and I think also Hometown did as well. But Dr. Reagan and I were talking the other day, and you know, if we're going to start doing the studies rather than having a professional do it, I liked one of the things that you said to me was you can have someone that doesn't live here that's disconnected from the conversation that can actually maybe hear the bigger picture if we're not. So I'm wondering if that's probably a better approach. So there is some a la carte options, I would think, in all of these. If there's things obviously here that we think we don't want to do. Patty asked me a couple days ago and again today, why so much? I have not seen, Kendallville is working with Hometown right now for theirs, and they're in this ballpark. Now, what I'm seeing though, Cromwell could eventually get added on.
Because it says it's in there.
So a lot of the ones that we're working with are offering that if the towns join us, it's going to be a lesser cost to them. We're going to pay the meat of it. I'm seeing in the range for the towns on all of these is maybe in that 5 to 20,000 range that they would have to play because it's smaller. We're more dense than they are. We have a lot more ground to cover. So with that, I would appreciate maybe the board without me having a conversation on a direction. We can talk about references, anything that you want us to maybe start getting the ball rolling to move forward. At some point, we're going to probably want to look for some grant money. What I did look at initially is we don't qualify. So Abermarsh also and HWC, and I think Structure Point may have pointed out that they might know of avenues where there might be some, but it's going to be farther down the road. We're going to have this started because we'll have to have a game plan from that and the data from that in order to ask for the grant money.
And what do we have budget-wise in the 2025? Anything?
No, but I could probably put something on my budget for council. And that would be smart, Randy,
And
is
that
if,
that would go along with the question, not to put you on the spot, Mary, but
you know, if we
How
tried
would
phase
council
one in one
think?
of these to put another 50,000 in our budget.
Mm-hmm.
Cause I think some of them are breaking them up into those phases. If we could figure out, let's say, which one we're going with, we could probably put that into a budget.
Well, it's better to put it in the budget than to come in and ask for an additional something. or-
Right, especially that much.
Yeah.
so that's gonna dictate when we can start.
I mean,
Yeah.
All we can do is say yea or nay, so. I mean,
So in theory, let me ask you this, if we wanted to get started before the end of this year, could we come in and ask for that smaller initial startup as an additional? And then for next year's budget, put in phase 2 and phase 3 of whichever plan we're working on, not necessarily Structure Point, but
right.
I think they all had a different phase level, like here's Abermarsh.
Yeah, what was theirs?
39,000, I believe, on the initial.
So like 40,000 for the initial, if we started in September with Abermarsh, we wouldn't need any more money until next year, but we would need 70,000 in the filing budget.
For 6,
Mhm.
yeah. Well, I think you should definitely try and get it in there, put it in your budget.
Right, but is it probable that we could, let's say in theory, we pick this company or another one and they want to start in September, that we could ask for that first chunk?
Okay, is there anywhere in your budget that you can shift any funds around or anything to use towards?
Not that amount of money. We don't turn in that much at the end of the year. We're lucky if we turn in 20,000 at the end of the year.
Okay, well, I'm, well, how do I say? Now we got most of the year to go.
The
Yeah.
largest budget that we have time-wise outside of your payroll and our payroll, we have an attorney fee, which keeps us out of legal trouble. So if we get sued or something, we've got a budget of like 4,000.
Right,
That's not much.
well, yeah, bring it.
I mean, our
ask
budget's
for an
pretty-
additional.
Our
That's-
budget's pretty tight.
yeah.
And I think last year we turned in 10,000.
I think it's 12.
12,000. So we we try to keep it pretty low.
Is there, some of it could come out of the commissioner's budget.
There you go.
Well, it is the commissioner's ordinance.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing too is I talked to the EDC,
Mhm.
and I don't know if they have additional funding, but that's another avenue that's county money. So that's a possibility that we can work with
Maybe
Melanie.
why don't you talk to Shelley, or, yeah.
Yeah.
Talk to the auditor, or talk to Jackie, get some, direction on this,
Mhm.
on how you should go about it, I think.
Yeah, we can do that. Is there a company or an avenue that you guys are favoring more than another? Or do you want more time to chew on it?
I personally think we've paid Structure Point enough.
I like
They've had a good working relationship with the county, and I thought that was valid, that they have an opportunity, and they did a nice presentation.
I think I like their presentation over everybody else's, even though it's missing half the it's, their presentation still works better than the rest.
What, Structure Point or Abermarsh?
Structure.
Structure Point, so don't know a lot about the other one.
It's a lot of reading there, but
And we were there for over an hour, probably could have stayed longer. Her and I connected on a planning level pretty well. Structure Point, I think I shot out an email and had a phone call and a little bit of conversation, and then they sent us a plan. But I think they all got from us that we're feeling that our current comprehensive plan is lacking. It's doesn't have any direction. If the board from BZA wants to implement any sort of regulation on anything, they have no action steps to go by. So any vague statement is like, it's open to interpretation.
It doesn't matter what comes in front of us, they can use comprehensive plan in their favor or use it against it.
Every
And they
time,
have been using it against us.
every time.
And that is because we've never decided, after we did a comprehensive plan, what our priorities are. So we say everything is good.
Mm-hmm.
But that should be a part of our comprehensive plan, what our priorities are.
So we have nothing about resolving conflicts of use, which is really what we do. And, you know, we say that certain kinds of development are gonna occur here and certain kinds are gonna do there, but we don't adjust our zoning to
But it
take
says-
that into account.
But it says on page 3, you encourage growth.
And, and what we just did was due regard to the comprehensive plan, we don't even have to specifically follow. And I would think we should talk with them about methodology of resolving, you know, these things about use. I mean, otherwise, I found this one to be very useful. It costs much less than $100,000 because the guts of it is the UDO, is what regulates your day-to-day life regarding zoning. But the UDO has to be based on your comprehensive plan. I mean, I've been doing this for almost 40 years now. I remember going before the Ligonier board, they didn't even know where the comprehensive plan was. I said, what is this comprehensive plan you're talking about? I said, I have a copy here. Can I see that? Now, and that's the difference between this board and some other boards I've been with, but that's frequently the case. The comprehensive plan is not used. And so you don't want to spend $200,000 for something that doesn't get used. If you're gonna not use it, spend $60,000 and use this one.
Okay.
And I just think we don't do that. And and this is just, I'm not expressing any personal opinions here, but from a lawyer's point of view, you're either gonna decide these issues like we just did, on a lot by lot basis when somebody comes in to rezone, or you're gonna decide on a broader basis. Now, neither one's wrong. But that's the kind of thing I think a comprehensive plan should address, is how do we deal with that? Because we say tourism is great, and agriculture is great, and residential development is great, and industry is great, and you can't have them all.
And as you can see, Hometown does address that with like the land use mapping. The mapping is not, it's not right. It's not usable for us, especially in BZA.
And it's not that people did anything horrible before,
No,
but you just see it, over time. We did have a thoroughfare plan once, in one of the previous ordinances
But we didn't adopt
that
one
was
with that
involved in, and then we just ignored it.
mm-hmm.
And said we're not gonna allow scattered site development in Noble County because it's gonna put impacts on the county roads. And instead, people develop these little subdivisions and they're using the county roads for their interior roads for their subdivisions. Now, that's not evil, but it is not what we planned. And up until Jersey Acres came around, that's what killed that.
Yep.
Okay, so is the desire that, the board needs or wants more time to review this before next month, or how do you want to proceed?
Or do you want to just continue with what we have?
As in what?
The current
The
plan.
current
Yeah. You want to keep the current plan?
I mean, if you wanna make wholesale revisions to the UDO, you gotta have a new comprehensive plan. But I think it was Elkhart County actually, it went for like 30 years without changing their comprehensive plan. They just continually amended their zoning ordinance.
Well, and I think it's hard to have a comprehensive plan to say what you wanna do, and then people own ground that wanna retire on selling it for any kind of use.
Well, the comprehensive plan is just a guide.
I realize that,
I refer to it as a pirate's code.
but it's,
Pretty sketchy.
but is there anything in it that really needs to be changed for the UDO?
I think my problem with a comprehensive plan is it's vague, and I'll go back.
I,
Are you there? You wanna do it? I mean, these statements should say something. You know, that statement, we realize that our vision for Noble County, let me go to the one that we use probably the most. Oop.
where are you going?
Strategic planning and community investments. That's a section of our comprehensive plan. That's a statement in there. So as a BZA member, you know, you have something that comes before you. Does it meet your comprehensive plan based on the quality of place through strategic planning and community investments? I mean, we had someone that wrote down, who was it? Oh, where's the one? Here's your next page. And okay, immeasurable steps need to be set. So this one is for natural resources, connecting to sewer. You know, we have no action steps in a lot of these on how we get from point A to point B. What was the other one? Noble County being enhanced by our downtowns. Downtown developments promote I can't read it from there, and I can't read it from here.
Healthy downtowns draw more people and development. Is this comprehensive plan for the area planning commission, unincorporated areas? We don't really have downtowns.
And shouldn't
And
speak
we
for
shouldn't
them.
speak.
Right. I mean, so some of this stuff is in our comprehensive plan currently, and we don't regulate that. Preservation of ag. Here it is. Define what prime farm ground is. We need goals for subdividing closer to amenities such as fresh water, sewer, promote homesteading. You know, where do we want that subdividing to happen? Or do we care that it happens everywhere?
And building off what Glenn said, 35 years ago, I was all for protecting farm ground at all costs, but as you get older,
Changes.
I bought it, I worked for it, I pay taxes on it, and I want to, 10 years from now, I want to split it up into 2-acre tracts.
But we have to, like, we have this prime farm ground is a common subject that comes up
Argument that justifies
every
rezoning.
time,
Oh,
and
it's
it's
not
been
prime farm
Well,
ground. It's
I
not
know
prime
how
farm
you
ground.
could do it, but everybody would hate it. They have to do something similar. They put caps on solar development because a lot of people didn't like it. And they basically said, you only have so many acres of solar development. You can say that for residential. For residential eating up a farmland, so maybe, you know, more than 3% per year.
I
You know, I think that, I mean, that'd be
40,000
really
acres.
difficult, but that does set priorities.
4,700.
You know,
And the county
no,
around here
it's
has that type of thing.
Oh.
I believe Allen, you can only have so many splits per year. You know, it kind of went along that way. I don't know how well it works. But
The
No,
entire-
what I was saying was, I did the math on it once, our comprehensive plan called for a certain amount of growth. And I took those houses and I took them times 6 acres over the next 20 years. And it came out to 45,000 acres.
Yeah.
Is what our comprehensive plan called for in rural housing.
That was in 18. And we're in more of a housing shortage now.
Yeah, but aren't we actually losing population down in the county, like we're down? Because we're not really growing county-wide, are we?
That's the whole goal, hopefully, is that we
Right,
can
well,
find
I
a way
think that's
by our
the goal,
comprehensive
yeah,
plan
I'm
to
just-
not do that.
But the problem is now, is we're losing stuff, and that's, you're saying that's our comprehensive plan don't address. That's not goal-oriented enough.
No, in my
To
opinion,
bring-
I think
to
we
bring in
could,
more business, to bring growth back, so we're not losing people, we're bringing people back in. Is that what you're saying?
my goal is to keep that youth here. When your kids go off to college, they want to come back here and live.
Yeah, yeah.
How do we
right.
get that to happen? Right?
That is tough.
A lot of it is that the people that are working in Noble County don't live in Noble County.
Vice versa. And vice versa.
We don't have anywhere
Yeah.
for them to live.
I
Yeah.
feel like-
And we've gotta use some kind of land to make housing.
Mm-hmm.
one of these packets addressed that, because I don't remember which one, but one of these packets, I thought I read that it addressed that there's other communities that have that same problem. A lot of people work in the area, but they live Fort Wayne or
And we look at our north and
North and
south
south.
sides of our county, they're both booming, growing really fast. So that's got to go somewhere.
just people, the people working there and stuff like that. I don't know how you fix that either.
And industry, how much new industry have we had? Patty may be able to answer that more than anybody else in the last 10 years.
I made a comment 2 months ago that Albany's dying slowly. This is the only town in Noble County that everybody has to come to at some point. And it is dying.
Well, unfortunately, that's becoming less necessary with
Online.
internet and those type of things. You know, it used to be the majority of the people came to pay taxes.
Mm-hmm.
The majority of it now, I would say, is probably done online, that type of thing, and only going to get more.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that we've had a lot of new, but we have had a reasonable amount of expansion of industries. But unfortunately, I see a lot of traffic on some of our more significant highways coming in the morning and going out at night. And I'm not sure what the answer. Everybody wants more residential development adjoining communities with amenities, water, sewer, roads, things of that sort. But it's so costly to accomplish that goal that makes it very difficult. And you have an aging population, especially in the rural area, that has the mentality, and I'm not going to say that I'm any different, that unless there is a next generation wanting to take over that farm, they want to split it up to the maximum amount. And unfortunately, and I've watched this over many years, it's generally not effective because they take the amount of minimum parcels and then after that they chunk it up in 10-acre parcels that burn up a lot of land. And I'm not sure, I try to envision down the road, how's that going to fill in order so that we have good development and still save some of our more prime farm ground.
And that's the goal of the comprehensive plan, is to find out what actions we need to take with our ordinance based upon all of the research and the data that can be done.
And you're gonna have to take the word prime out of farm ground.
Or have a definition of what prime farm ground means.
No, because prime farm ground,
Or there's not a lot of prime. It's
Then it doesn't
You
need
gotta
to be here.
You gotta go like Whitley, or you gotta get out of it, yeah. You gotta get out of it.
Cosio.
Okay,
And Swan Township probably thinks a lot of stuff we got up here is prime and compared to them probably is.
yeah.
The only thing I would consider prime here is like
Up around
the stuff that you
Cosgrove.
can't farm because it's too wet to farm, like muck and stuff. That's good ground.
Real
You just
prime
can't
is
get
probably the Perry Township and
Yeah,
in off in that area.
Black Mountain, it's hard to
And
find
to a
those
certain
areas.
extent, those areas will continue to probably not develop in other areas because of the cost of that land and its best use to keep the
I know,
land.
like people my age, when they're looking for houses, they're not looking for, they don't want 20, 30, you can't afford 20, 30, 40 acres. We don't have we don't have the 25% that the bank wants us to put down on a $500,000, $3/4 million piece of property. Like, we don't have $100,000, we don't. It doesn't matter if you make $200,000 a year, we just cost of living, we don't have that much money to set that. But everyone's wanting like 5, 6 acres, we all want to self-sustain. Everyone's going back into, we want to camp, we want to get away from diets, we want to make our own bread, we want to have our own grains.
Have chicken.
Have chicken, have a cow, just one cow or 2 cows to have your own homegrown milk. Everyone wants to go back to that. But do you want to break up people that's got 2,000, 3,000 acres, whatever Mescus has, or people that size? You can't just have them break up all their farmland into 5-acre plots and make it affordable for everybody else.
So
Bring
Teresa,
it in.
are you looking for us to say something about our current comprehensive plan? Or are you looking for us to give our recommendations for the proposals that have been submitted?
Okay, so what we talked about in fall was to get some proposals around. I had 2. In December, we talked about getting more. We now have 4. So I guess maybe the board needs to decide, do we want to move forward or stay with what we have? If we want to move forward, I don't have to make a decision with a company tomorrow, but maybe give me 1 or 2 we can call and get some references. I can do some research with Jackie and the treasurer, and by the next meeting have a little bit of more of a report for you based on, but I'd like to have at least the direction.
Does everybody have complete access to all 3 of them?
The only one that you guys only got one-sided copies were Avamarsh.
No, this one
That was
here,
from the previous meeting.
I have got half of it.
That's not a report. That is the survey that everybody took. Did you take the survey?
I don't got that survey, and this one isn't complete.
Okay, we'll email you that one tonight or tomorrow morning.
No, don't worry about it, I won't read it. I will come in and get a copy.
Okay,
So will you email them so that everybody
Yes,
has that?
yes.
Because it sounds like some people got some and didn't get the others.
right. So we can email all 4 out. Yeah, the first 2, Hometown and HWC, you've already gotten. If you would prefer to pick one up, just give me a call first thing in the morning. Otherwise, we'll email them out. Structure Point, Avamarch, HWC, and Hometown.
Teresa, can I ask one thing about, do they all plan on coming out, being you talk to them, do they all plan on coming out and doing, kind of like Structure Point says that they're in toward the county, not just surveying, come out toward the county, do they all plan to kind of do that?
They'll all be part of this community when they come in to do this. They'll come into Onion Days, let's say, and they'll be there.
But they're not, so they're all gonna come forward, be part of the community, see what the community wants and stuff, they're not.
That's the whole point of that, is they'll do survey work. They'll also come out and get into the community and ask questions. That's part of them gathering all that
But it's every
data.
one of them plans on doing that, it's not just.
Yes,
Avamarch.
correct. Now, Hometown was a little more of giving us that version. There's some tasks that if they want to host and conduct a steering committee meeting, it's $3,500 a meeting. So,
I like the idea of them coming out to events.
yeah,
The more
Because
that
I've
they
been
do.
involved in these where we have a meeting.
I've had them with Kenneth.
And.
10 people show up.
in, And
Yeah.
it's not real successful, I'll just tell you.
That's why I would agree with it.
I thought that was so smart when they
Yeah,
mentioned that.
It is, and I think whichever one's gonna probably do it the most, is probably where I would say that.
To go to where
Events.
community events are.
Where community-
Community events, they want to actually drive around the community, the county, so they know what's going on around here. That's a smart way to go, because then you know what you're dealing with. It's not an abstract, it's people, it's ground.
And I think your word abstract for me is a little bit of a current plan. Would you agree?
I would agree.
I think we'll have something a little more directional. That's just my opinion. And then that would help our UDO.
Oh, I was going to mention, I would be normally happy with the comprehensive plan, but if you said on the BZA, we can't continue to live with what we've got. When somebody, and nothing against Scott, but Scott's the master of manipulating
He's
that.
a master at getting a good one.
He finds every broad statement and finds a way that, works for him.
And
Yes.
I sat on that side of the table for many years for the consulting.
You
firm.
did.
And I did it too. That's the way the game
I
works.
mean, I did that, my job was to look at the ordinance and figure out how to get around it.
Exactly.
I mean, that's exactly what you're doing here.
And a good
Yeah.
comprehensive
Evaluating our
plan
comprehensive
makes that more difficult
Yeah.
to accomplish.
Because otherwise it wouldn't be seated.
I just wanted someone to make a
Yeah, they would just
decision.
come in.
So our job is to take away your business.
Well, back when I was on that side of the table,
Make
that'd be
this
right.
side of the job work.
That's
really
true.
hard.
I mean, every BCA I've ever represented, yeah, I mean, I've always told them the same thing. Your job is to say no. That is your job. They almost always ask for something they can't have. But, and BCAs have a lot of difficulty doing that. And if your zoning ordinance isn't flexible enough, the BCA is the one that is the cushion.
Severe thunderstorm out.
Yeah.
It's not raining as bad as it was a minute ago.
But there's power gusts and hail.
I mean, I'm amazed that people come here and do this. This is an immensely complex job. It's essentially like free volunteers. I mean, they get a little bit of compensation for doing this. And everything I've said is those aren't answers. Those are new problems. Because if you put a cap, for example, the person who applies the day after the cap has been reached is going to be very unhappy first. You got to wait till next year when the 3% cap kicks in. You know, but then what are you doing? Are you regulating anything? If you don't make some way of determining how your uses are going to be allocated. Well, you can do it on a lot by lot basis. You just sit there and say, look at your neighbors. How does it fit in with the neighbors? And we're not going to worry about the rest of the county. You know, we'll do it chunk by chunk by chunk. We can do it that way. Some of the southern districts my parents lived in, they did it that way, and you'd have a house in the middle of a Walmart parking lot. You know, so you know that's one extreme. They're just more flexible.
So Teresa, are you looking for us to say, okay, these are our top two, get references? Are you looking for us to say, no, we don't want to do this?
Yes and yes.
Okay.
I need
Does it
some
need to be
direction.
like a
I need some
formal-
direction. I need to know, are we going to pursue this? Are we not going to pursue it? Do you want me to try to see what council and the budget can handle? I can go through and find all that information out by next meeting. But at the same time, I think if we're actually thinking about moving forward, we need to lock something down.
I think professional planners say you ought to be doing this at least every 10 years.
And I know the board wants to revise some of the subdivision things and some other things in the ordinance. And I think looking at the comprehensive plan is the best route to start.
So do you need like a formal motion, or do you just need like a general recommendation?
I would say a recommendation.
I believe a recommendation. I think everybody should look for that email. I would believe that at least you, if not you and I, need to go before council at the April meeting so that we can give a report back to the commission on council's thoughts on financing for yet this year. And then that will give us time in April to narrow it down. I think the general consensus is we need to do something.
Can I suggest, if we're going to go to council, that we've narrowed it down to at least two,
Yes,
so we
I
can
think you
offer them
should.
two?
I think yes, so you can make
Have
it better.
concrete numbers.
So council has something that they have an idea. We're going to go with this or this.
What is the date of the council?
It's the
First
first
Monday.
Monday of every
First
month.
Monday.
So you probably won't get on till May.
It's the,
Oh, no, we can,
It'll be April 7th.
we can probably get on the 7th as long as they're not full.
I'll bet you probably can. She has to advertise, 2 weeks in advance?
No,
Or-
not even that long,
Not
48
even that.
hours. She usually does it the
Oh,
Wednesday
okay.
before, but if it's full, she won't let me.
Right.
Depends on what you have on there. I have time to get on there unless she's full.
I would
Yeah,
be
I
toured
think
by
we
the
need
1st of April.
I can get
That's
it.
a Tuesday.
I can call her tomorrow and get on the agenda and then get her the information closer to the meeting. She'll be fine with that.
So do I hear a motion from anyone on the two most favorable? Or do you want to take a poll, or what's the desire?
Can we get them via email and have a chance to look through them completely?
We could do it that way and then
Email back to
do an
Teresa.
email back to you.
So each board member will send me an email and tell me which top two they have.
Yes.
And then I'll take the majority and I'll send you all a bulk email on who it is.
Okay.
That'd be great.
Does that mean?
And when you send those back, send them back, reply only to Teresa, not everybody.
Right.
Moving on to zoning violation report.
Oh, that's gonna be real simple. We're still got Sarah or Rachel up and running. We received a complaint of a zoning violation of a home-based business here in Layotto. Rachel and I have been out there twice because we went out once, talked to the property owner, and then we got another phone call that
Have to go out there at midnight and
I
see them and
know.
take pictures.
Yes.
I do know that the property owner does have a business. He keeps his equipment in another county. He said if one of them does break down, he does bring it into this job to fix it for himself. It's a really pretty little area, and these parcels are large. And they all have really big barns. All of them have big barns. So it's like, how can you?
So do they have a personal issue with
I was
each
gonna
other
say,
or
I'm
something?
pretty sure, the other way that's at, I think there's other semis and stuff that aren't near, roughly by that. road.
Well, the only thing that we're looking at here is we had a complaint on this particular parcel. I didn't see anything wrong. We sent a courtesy letter. We got a response from the property owner. I'm not running a business out of this barn. We're letting it go at this point. So if there's a fallacy going on one side or the other, someone's going to have to prove it. We just don't have enough proof. With that, I'm done.
Member reports. Do we have anything from council?
Pretty much I've said everything.
Okay. Anyone else? Future agenda items?
Did you want me to say anything?
Oh, member report. If Tom wanted to go over, we've had a long meeting.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll try. I find this stuff extremely interesting. First thing I would like to say, I got a complaint. As he was calling roll, we referred to Sarah as Sarah Doctor. Right?
Doctor and Sarah,
I
it just
think I want
kind
to
of,
be called professor, all right?
but she actually is a doctor.
Okay, I know. I got it. Just,
It does slip of the tongue every once in a
That wasn't the
while.
one who requested
I
to
know,
be called.
I know.
You're not gonna get at me.
okay, so anyway,
You get used to it.
Oh, you missed her.
I missed the last meeting because I told Teresa it was a joke. I told Teresa because I was attending a meeting in New Orleans was discussing tariffs and everything. So Teresa wanted me to give a presentation on tariffs. But first I need to tell you what I do. I am one of 77 directors who represent the 500,000 farmers in the United States on the United Soybean Board. What we do is we extract money from Glenn's check in the amount of 0.5% for the price of a bushel of soybeans. So everybody pays different. I sit on a committee. There are 6 people in my committee. I sit on the demand committee. My committee is in charge of a $65 million budget to build demand for soybeans and value-added products. Tell you what those are. But first I have to do this disclaimer. I'm not allowed to talk about tariffs or prices, because when I take money out of somebody's check, that makes us a lobbying group, which is extremely illegal. But if we're going to spend money promoting agricultural products, we need to know what is going on. Do you spend a certain amount of money in a certain country when they don't want to trade with us, or there's trade barriers or tariffs? Tariffs are not our issue, but we do need to know. So, one of the reasons this reflects back to Indiana, and these numbers is really, you have to remember that 96% of the world's population lives outside of the United States. Indiana is really, really unique in the fact, when I talk about value-added products, 60% of the soybeans in the Midwest or in the United States gets exported. But what makes Indiana unique is 67% of the soybeans in Indiana goes to poultry, 30% goes to beef, pork, and poultry. That leaves 3% that gets put in, that's 60% that gets exported. And when you talk about value added, again, in Indiana, it's unique. We have the soybean crushing plants, taxes, you got labor there. When it's crushed, it goes in the soybean mill. That mill goes to dairy, pork, poultry. You've got the buildings, you've got the workforce within the dairy. We also have a slaughter capacity. So it is easier and much more beneficial to Indiana to not export soybeans, but to get that value-added tax dollars. And it's easier to export beef, pork, and poultry. and dairy. So, oh, and 86% of what we raise in Indiana, from a beef, pork, and dairy standpoint, gets exported. So, what I want to tell you is tariffs aren't necessarily bad. Free trade isn't necessarily good. What you're looking is for fair and reciprocal trade. And one of the things that, you know, as we talk, some of the things that we got issues here is how fair trade doesn't work for soybean farmers is we give a tremendous amount of money to USEC, which is United States Export Council, USMEF, which is United States Meat Export Federation, which I was one of 2 of the 77 directors appointed to that organization. And you've got USAPEC, which is United States Poultry and Egg Export Council. We give a lot of money to them. We just give it to them because if they're making money exporting these products, we are. But where the rub comes in is I take the money out of Glenn's check and all the farmers' check, and since we have a free trade agreement with Brazil, there are 3 vessels currently coming across the Atlantic Ocean with 35 million metric tons of soybeans out of Brazil that's going to land in North and South Carolina. Over 100 million metric tons. This is going to go to Purdue and Tyson poultry and pork plants, farms. So if you see the problem is I'm taking money out of everybody's checks to export these products on our behalf when they're feeding Brazilian soybeans. It's an issue. Those organizations also get money from Tyson, from all the Butterball, everything. They also get money from shipping companies, mayors, things like that. But they pay we give them the money to promote those products. Those people pay an association fee to lobby on their behalf. And another thing I was going to tell you is I wish John Metzger was here because a lot of Catholics has got a statue of Mary in their yard. All dairy farmers ought to have a statue of Trump in their yard. Just they need to. So what you guys have heard is Trump's putting a 250% tariff on milk, 291% tariff on butter, and 241% tariff on cheese coming out of Canada, which sounds really terrible. But that's what Canada has had on us for the last 5 years. But nobody's ever said anything. And all this is manipulated by class 5 and 6 milk pricing. I don't even like dairy cattle, but I know more about milk pricing than I probably should. Another example of how free trade doesn't work, the cattle numbers in the United States, I got to find, the beef herd's been as the lowest it has been since 1961, and the cow-calf herd is the lowest since 1951. But it took a tremendous downfall, even though I love President Reagan, it crashed during his presidency because he signed NAFTA into agreement. And what that did is Canada is in the business of making milk. They do not care about beef. They want milk. They've got quotas. The politicians own the quotas. It's a long, complicated story, but in order to get milk, you have to have lactating cows. They have to be pregnant. So what they do is they breed those to a Angus bull, and they dump those cattle back on the United States, and there's no tariff on them, and they don't want them. They get rid of them, and that is what is putting our cow-calf producers out of business. And funny fact is one of the places where the solar panel industry is growing more than anywhere in the United States is on marginal grazing ground in the West. Those guys have gone out of business, so they're putting that in some of that state-owned ground, so they put it in the solar panel. Let's see, I talked about the cow-calf deal. So again, what you're looking for is reciprocal tariffs. And again, one of the ways you can look at a tariff as in the United States, our dollar is worth more than anybody else's. We have issues within manufacturing. We've got to maintain safety, environmental controls. Everybody can make anything cheaper than we can. because everybody wants to be paid $30 an hour when you've got overseas labor where they've got child labor. So what tariff does is just brings that product up to what your standard is or what it's worth to you. It's not a fine, it just makes it fair trade. That's why free trade isn't necessarily a good thing. Fun fact on the dairy cattle too, for anybody that doesn't know, when they breed those Holsteins to an Angus bull, all they have to do is be 51% black and it's certified Angus. So when you go buy certified Angus in the store, probably isn't necessarily that. I can answer you guys any questions you want on poultry buildings. Poultry buildings are still going to start probably having a surge again in Noble County because the poultry industry, the integrators, all these poultry buildings, poultry in them isn't owned by the guy who owns the building. They are just managing the building. So when they was putting in these before, they grouped them together because you brought in the feed trucks. So it was all close. Well, they're finding out this don't work to the vaccinations. So they are going to look at more places that the integrators have decided that these buildings are going to have to be further apart. So some of these are probably going to close maybe and more will open where there isn't so many. If you want to ask me on vaccinations, I can tell you, I can explain that to you. It's kind of complicated. And then I just found out yesterday the MENA region, which stands for Middle East North Africa, they have an insatiable appetite for soybeans and soybean meal. So in May, they asked me to go to the USMEF, asked me to go to Muscat, Oman. And I said yes. I didn't know that was such a good idea. It's 35 miles from Iran, and it's right next to Yemen, in case anybody doesn't know. Does anybody have any questions on vaccines on poultry? I can answer them.
Do they work?
Yes, of course they work. But we're not going to do it. CODIS. CODIS is basically what you call the World Veterinary Association. Many, many years ago, when AI became part of what we're doing, a lot of small countries that do not export started vaccinating. Okay? But they don't export anything. European Union, United States, China, everybody said we are not vaccinating because the vaccine can actually hide avian influenza. And nobody wants to eat a chicken that's got avian influenza. They want ones that don't have it. There has been talk of vaccine, but it goes back to the 67% of the soybeans in Indiana. It goes to poultry. The minute we vaccinate, that stops. All those exports stop. You will be able to buy eggs for like 2 cents a dozen because they will be on the shelf. They won't get exported anymore. Of course, when they go to 2 cents a dozen, nobody's going to raise them, and they're going to go back up to 12. A lot of foreign countries, the smaller foreign countries, they don't care about it for the simple reason they don't export. And the vaccine gives a false positive. Does the bird actually have avian influenza, or is it a false positive, or did that bird get missed? And those countries have what's called, and a lot of the larger have a policy, what's called vaccination to kill, and some of them have what's called vaccinate to live. A lot of the larger ones have vaccinate to live, and that's if you find one that in a vaccinated herd, we're just going to say that one got skipped, or it's a false positive, or it carries over from the vaccine. The United States is still going to have the vaccinate to kill policy, which means if you have a false positive, it's been missed, but you're still eliminating the flock. And the minute we vaccinate, I know Brooker, the new Secretary of Ag, she has talked about vaccinations quite a bit in her first couple of days. But she didn't actually, and I'm not going to give her a lot of grief, she didn't actually know the policy, and she's backed off on vaccinations considerably. It's just not going to happen until the world gets along on, will you eat a vaccinated bird or eat an egg out of a vaccinated poultry? And until the world says, no, It's not gonna happen, and we're gonna keep killing them. Another fact is, Jay County and 2 counties in Ohio have already lost $40 million worth of income, that's income, not lost birds, over avian influenza. That's another thing, as you said on the plan commission, we don't have a policy on putting in a pond. So if you put in a poultry building here, there's not setbacks for the neighbor who buys 5 acres and wants to put in a pond. The only way avian influenza gets transmitted is through the migratory flock. And there's a question, what is it? When you do something, is it going to harm or hurt your neighbor? What is it?
Public health, safety, and general
Yeah,
welfare of the
yes.
community.
So if you answer that and you're putting in a pond and there's a poultry barn next to you, yes, it's not a good idea.
Ponds
But-
go through you though, survey.
Ponds go through me, but I have nothing.
But he has
As long
nothing.
as they follow the setbacks, they can have a
Yep.
pond. So that's just the way that.
They have to be 25 feet from their pond if they own it.
So anyway, I can go on a bunch of this.
With that,
Yeah,
we've got
birds.
not the
keep the
best
geese away
weather,
from your
so I would ask for unless somebody else has something, thank you for that. I would ask for a motion
Motion
for
to
adjourn.
Second.
Seconded.
Thank you, everybody.
I looked it up, April 16th, I believe.
We only have one item, so it should be fairly quick.
3 items in one. But
3 items in one. Okay.
3 items in one.
You have a
Have we
vacate
passed the
re-
deadline?
yes, the deadline was day. So you have a vacate, replat, and
At some point,
Thank
since
you very
involves
much.